All right, welcome back to another video in the PHP login registration system. Now, this is part of a larger series that we're doing where we're learning to move ourselves from beginner programmers all the way up to job-ready programmers. That is the motivation and the purpose of this series. So, if you find yourself just stumbling upon this video, please recognize it is part of a larger series and go back and watch the entire series. All right, so. Also, if you like these videos, please comment, like, and subscribe on them. That does help me out quite a bit. So if I'm helping you, please leave me a comment. Let me know how I'm helping you. Let me know what this means to you and what you are planning to do with your life if you land a job. All right, so here we go. I'm going to switch over to my camera. And what I'm going to do is just get my Mailhog server up and running again. So that is the this command right here. So tilde/go/bin/mailhog, and when that's running, it will be retrieving mail on port 0125, which we have previously configured our SMTP server to our XAMPP install to send mail to this port. Then we can view that port. There's a nice little user interface that we can use to have an inbox to view whatever mail hits that server right here on port 8025. The other thing you need to make sure is running is make sure XAMPP is up and running. So go ahead and start XAMPP or XAMPP, however you pronounce it. It is technically pronounced XAMPP, I believe, according to the developer of that, but I say XAMPP, and partially because I'm just old and I can't change the way that I say things. All right, so here we go. Mailhog is up and running, so I'm gonna go back to the inbox here, and it's empty for now. And we're back here. In the last video, we finished up our reset password stuff. Now what we want to do is we actually want to create a remember me option so that they stay logged in, and we will keep them logged in for 30 days. So let's go ahead and get going on that. So the first thing that we were going to want to do is pull up our login.php, and we want to add something new to the form here. And what we want to do is we are going to add a checkbox. So right here below this form group and before the login button, let's just add a label. And this time we're not going to have a for. It's not really necessary because we're going to put the checkbox inside of the label. So what we're going to do is say stay logged in, and then I'm going to do an input here. And the type of this input is going to be a checkbox. The value is going to be on, and the name here will be equal to remember me, and then we'll close that out. So now let's go back and refresh, and we should have a stay logged in thing here, and you could say remember me or keep login or something like that. But basically when they log in, what we want to have happen, and I'll show you this real quick. So we'll go ahead and log in. I'll type in my password, and I will keep this checked. And if we look at our network tab and we click login, we have, let me try this. We have this login.php, and if we scroll down here to the form data, we have email is equal to Parham Curtis, and then the password was sent over as password, and then the remember me was set to on. So what happens if we don't check that box? Let's look at what that will look like. So I'm not going to check this checkbox. I'm going to turn on preserve log, we'll hit login. And now if I go down and look at the form data, it is only sending the email and password. So it doesn't even send on a checkbox. It doesn't even send the value as an empty value. So that's important, and we'll need to keep that in mind as we handle the checkbox. So let's go ahead and log out again, and let's talk a little bit about this. And what we're going to do is up here inside the post here, we're going to need to check inside of here where it logs the user in. We're going to figure out if they want us to keep them logged in. So what we'll do above the login thing is we're just going to add a new, variable called remember, and we are going to check if it is a set. So what we're doing is we're checking if is set dollar, or we'll just do post, and that was called remember me. So we'll do if it's set and if post remember me is double equal to on. So if both of these are true, this right here is going to be true. So this is going to be a Boolean. It's going to be true or false. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually add a new parameter to our login function, and the second parameter is going to be remember. Okay, so we're just going to add to our login function, and now we're going to know if we should remember them or not. So we'll go ahead and save that. The next thing that we'll do is go ahead and jump over to your functions .php and find your login function. So for me, that is right here. And our login function was a little bit small, but we're going to add to it now. So we need to add another parameter here. So originally we were only passing in the user, and now we need to know if we want them to be remembered. So what we're going to do is set up a default. We're going to say remember, and by default this is going to be set to false. So we're going to have to pass true into it if we want them to be remembered. So then what we're going to do, and actually we'll do it underneath this session set. We're going to do it, oops, whoa, how did that happen? We're going to do, underneath here, we're going to add an if statement, and we're going to say if remember. So if they have remember checked, then we need to do additional stuff in this login function. So the first thing that we want to do is we're going to create a hash, because what I want to do is in this login, or in our database, we have a sessions table that we haven't really looked at yet. But in the sessions table, we have an ID, we have a user ID, we have a hash, and we have something we're calling fingerprint. And we want to create this hash first. So the hash is just going to be a random hash that's going to be hopefully unique. And the way that we're going to make that unique is we're going to create a new variable called hash, and we're going to use a function called MD5. Now MD5 is just a hashing function. It's an older one in PHP, but it's still useful in some ways. You don't want to do passwords with it because it's easy to, they figured out how to decrypt this one. So it is an older one that you shouldn't use except for this type of thing. So we're going to use MD5, and what we're going to do is whatever we pass into this is going to hash into an MD5 hash. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a time function, which is going to return the current time in seconds. So, but it's possible that two people could do this at the exact same time, and you would end up with two of the same hash codes, and we don't want that. So then what we're going to do is we are actually going to concatenate onto this time. We're going to concatenate on the user ID. And actually what I'd like to do, just to make sure that we don't have any issues here, is let's do another concatenation, and we'll do a string with an underscore, because user ID is just an integer and time is just an integer, so there's a chance that these hashes at some point in time could match up with a different hash. So we're just going to go ahead and use this right here, and it'll have an underscore in between there for the hash. So let's go ahead and the other thing that we're going to need to set, let's look back in our database. We want a fingerprint. And so let me just kind of explain the end goal here. What we're trying to do is set up a cookie on the user's browser that we can have a hash here. And if that hash is set in their browser, we're going to automatically log them in, so they don't have to fill out the email and password. But the problem is, if someone steals this cookie, then they can log into the application. So one way that we're going to combat this is we're actually, and this is also spoofable, but they'd have to know that we're doing this. So what we're going to do, we're going to set that hash as a cookie, but we're also going to store, when someone logs in, we're going to store what sort of operating system they're using, what browser, what version of the browser, and we're going to store that as, we're going to call it a fingerprint. And if someone has this cookie and they're on the same fingerprint, we're going to log them in. However, if they're not on the same fingerprint, say they're on a different operating system, then we might assume that they stole the cookie and we're not going to log them in. So it's just a little bit of added security there. So what we're going to do is we need to get that fingerprint. Fortunately, we do have, if you dump and die $_server, which is a super global that PHP gives us. So we're just going to do that real quick. Let's go ahead and log in, and this will dump and die. Dang it! Did I not save? Oh, I didn't have remember set. So let's log out and try that again. And I'm going to check this stay logged in, and we should get a dump and die. Okay, so here is our dump and die, and this has information about our server on here. And if we scroll through this, and if I find it correctly, we have one here called HTTP user agent, and this user agent tells it some information about what I'm using. So for instance, I'm using Chrome 91.0.4472. And I'm running on a Linux environment of a 64-bit Linux environment, and even my display is running on X11. So it gives us a lot of information here that we can use, and this is what we're going to use for our fingerprint. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this HTTP user agent key from there. And in here, we're going to set up our fingerprint. Fingerprint is going to equal $_server. And then I'm going to paste that HTTP user agent in here. So the PHP server is automatically going to give us this information, and we can use that as a fingerprint. Okay, so now that we have the fingerprint and we have the hash, then we need to know, and we have the user ID right here, then we have everything that we need to store in this sessions table, the user ID, the hash, and the fingerprint, to where we can reliably find the user by their cookie and auto log them in if their fingerprints match. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert, when they're logging in, we're going to insert into the sessions table a row. So in order to do that, let me close this down a little bit. In order to do that, what we're going to do is just add an SQL statement here, and that's going to let me put my semicolons because I always forget those. We're going to do insert into, and then our table was called sessions, and then the values that we're going to put into here is going to be user_ID, comma, hash, comma, finger_print. Okay. And then our values on that, we're going to bind all of those. This is going to be a prepared statement, and we're going to bind all three of those just like that. So we have three values that we're going to plug into there. So now we need to create that binds array, and these have to be in order. Now we have three elements that we need in this, and the first one is the user ID. So that one we can just access by doing user and then accessing the ID key on that. We'll do a comma. The next one was the hash, so we'll put in our hash variable right here. And our third element was the fingerprint variable that we created right here, and we'll just plug that in there. So the next thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and run that query. So we're going to say result is equal to, and then we're going to run our query function. We'll pass in SQL, we'll pass in our binds, and then we're going to run the execute only. So that's true. Okay, and then what we're going to do is, if this is successful, so if this query inserts successfully, then we're going to set the cookie. So we're going to use if result. Then what we're going to do is PHP has a function that's called set cookie, all lowercase like this. That's built into PHP. I didn't make this up. This will set a cookie on the user's browser. Now the caveat here is they need to have cookies turned on. If cookies won't work, then they're not going to be able to log in at any websites anyway. So, but it's just important to know that they have to allow you to store a cookie on their browser. Most people will have this turned on unless they're really like security minded, and then they may be really picky about what cookies they allow to be stored. So we're just going to go ahead and set that cookie. And but we need to know this cookie needs to have a unique identifier to it. So let's scroll up to the top of the functions page here. And in right here where we defined our login session, let's go ahead and define our cookie name here. So let's just say define. And what we're going to do is just call this login underscore cookie. Okay, and then the second thing is I want you to go ahead and don't use any special characters, but do something different than what we did for the login session. Just go ahead and give it some sort of weird characters and only use letters and numbers in it, and just kind of give it the same length as you did for the login session. So this will be our cookie name that we're going to store on the browsers, on the client side browser. And I'll show you that once we do it. So now that we have this login cookie, go ahead and scroll back down to your login function here. And in this set cookie, we need to tell it the key of the cookie. So we called that login cookie, like that. So that's going to be the name. The next thing we put in here is the value. So what is the value that we're putting in here? Well, we want to go ahead and we want to put our hash, oops, all lowercase. This hash right here is going to be stored in the database. So we want to store that same hash on their browser. Now this hash is going to be used to look up that session in the database later to automatically log them in. So once this is set, we need to tell it how long the cookie will live for. So I think the best way to do this is right above here. Let's create an expiry, and this is going to be equal to time. So time will be right now, and that's going to be in seconds. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add to that an amount of seconds. So we need to figure out how many seconds are in 30 days. So I'm just going to put some parentheses here, and we know that seconds, there are 60 seconds in a minute. So we can take 60, and there are 60 minutes in an hour, so we can times that by 60. And then there are 24 hours in a day, so we can times that by 24. And then we want to do this for 30 days, so we can times that by 30. So it's 60 seconds times 60 is going to be minutes. There's 60 minutes in an hour. And then we're going to times that by 24 hours, so that's a day. And then we're going to times that by 30, so this will give us an expire date of 30 days after today. So after right now's time, this will expire. So we can, as the third parameter in the set cookie, we're going to tell it how long it should live. So we're going to give it a time in seconds of how long this should live. And so we're going to pass that expiry right into that. Okay. So that should be it. You could do this math ahead of time if you want, which I think is 2,529,000 seconds in 30 days. But you can figure that out, and you could just add it to time. I'm just going to do it like this so that it's kind of the lazy way of doing it, so I don't have to actually figure that math out. We'll just let the computer figure the math out. So then all it's going to do after it sets that cookie, well, it's inserted into the sessions database, and it has set the cookie. So that's all that I think we need to do in this video. So I'm going to get rid of this dump and die right here. So what we've done is we've basically expanded our login function to add this remember variable. And if they check that, we're going to create a hash and a fingerprint and insert into our sessions table. And then we're going to set a cookie on their browser. And we're going to go through this and show all of this. And the next video what we're going to do is we're going to check and see if that cookie exists. And if it exists, we're going to log them in automatically. So let's go ahead now and test all of this out. I'm going to go back to this login page. And if you look here, I'm in let me show you how to get here. You can either right click and click inspect, or you can click Control-Shift-I, and that's going to open the inspector. And inside the inspector, we can go to the application, and we can look at the cookies for localhost. So underneath cookies, here we have our localhost, and you can see our PHP session ID is stored in here. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and log in, and we're going to put in the correct password, and now we're going to check stay logged in. And when I click login, it should log us in. Now notice a new cookie has popped up in here, and it has the key that I've defined in the login function, or at the top of the functions.php. We created that new constant. So here's the key, and here's that MD5 hash. So this is D7407606. So this doesn't tell them what the user ID is directly, but this does tell them that this is available right here. So so then what we want to be able to do is we want to make sure that this matches. So let's look in a database now by going to localhost phpMyAdmin, and then click on sessions. And now there should be, if everything went correct with your code, there should be a row here with the user ID that logged in. That hash should match the cookie that's in the browser. Okay, and then there should be that fingerprint we talked about right here. So now I have this fingerprint. So in the next video, we're going to use this fingerprint and this hash to look in this table and find the user by this hash. So one thing that we need to do though, since we're searching by this hash, is we want to add an index to this table. So let's go ahead and look at structure. And let's see if there is an index, and indeed there is one for the hash. So we do have a hash and we have a user ID index. I just wanted to make sure so that it is faster to look this up by that hash. But yeah, so that is this cookie. We are logged in, so we have a session stored in this session ID with our user ID, so it knows we're logged in. But it is also stored this cookie. Now if I delete this session ID up here, or if I close my browser or somehow this gets deleted, this cookie shouldn't get deleted until this, see this expires? I forgot to show you this. So this will actually expire on August 5th, 2021. Now today is July 6th. So that is 30 days from now. This will expire. So we're going to check to see if that's an expired cookie. And actually it will just expire on its own in the browser. We won't really need to do much from that. But we're going to take this value and we're going to find that row in the sessions table. And then once we find it, if they have the same fingerprint, we're going to take that user ID and auto log them in. So we'll do that in the next video, and that will be wrapping up this chapter. So I hope you guys are having fun. Please comment, like, subscribe. Let me know if you guys have any big aha moments or what this means to you. It will keep me motivated to make all of these videos. I do know my viewership is real low, and unfortunately, every time I release a video, I lose subscribers. So either you guys hate this or my old subscribers hate it, but either way, it is what it is. I've committed to doing this, and I have faith that it is going to help someone out there. And I know from past experience that I have probably gotten 50 to 100 people that have told me that they have gotten jobs from taking my tutorials. And so I am looking, even this is all worth it to me if one more family, one more person has a better life because they've gone through my tutorials, they get a better job. So I'm going to keep on keeping on in faith, and even if all of my subscribers drop me, I'm going to assume that this means something to someone. So I will see you guys in the next video. Have a wonderful day.